Well, hello, welcome back to another Chris McPherson Show Daily Dose. It's time to go back to talking some tennis as we head into the lead up to the US Open, the final Grand Slam, the final major of 2025. And there's certainly been some interesting results in the lead up as we head into these back-to-back Masters 1000s events, firstly in Canada and then into Cincinnati. We are in the overlap just between the two as we head now towards Cincinnati, the longest serving tournament in the same location on the tennis tour. 125 years long its service to the tennis calendar. It's continuing to certainly add its history as they build up and generate quite a complex there at Cincinnati, which we'll dig into in a minute. But before we look forward, let's look backwards and let's talk about the tournaments that were the Canadian Opens in both Montreal and Toronto. For those who aren't familiar, these are 1,000 level tournaments on the ATP and WTA tours. So the largest tournaments outside of the Grand Slams. And we certainly had some interesting results, some big movers in the rankings because of the results as well. That's going to be a piece to pick apart and talk about. So let's start talking, first of all, in regards to the women's tournament. Coming into the women's tournament, there was certainly some absences that we looked at, but it was an unseeded player in terms of what Canadian wildcard on home soil winning the tournament as a Canadian for the first time since 1968, so 57 years. Victoria Mboko, she shot up the rankings by 60 places by winning this tournament. She moved from 85 to 25. She'll now more than likely be seeded at the US Open. But what was even more phenomenal was the fact that she managed to knock off 4 former Grand Slam winners in her 6 victories across the tournament. She took out Sofia Kenin in the first round, 6-2, 6-3. She then came back from a set down to take down Maria Buzkova, 1-6, 6-3, 6-love. She headed into the round of 16 up against the number 1 seed, America's Coco Gauff, another Grand Slam champion. She dismissed her 1 and 4. She then beat Jessica Buzas-Monero in the quarterfinals before coming up against 9-seed Elena Rybakina, where she came back from a set 1 down. She looked like she was absolutely blown away in the first set. 6-1, she lost the first set before closing at 7-5, 7-6 and winning that match the tiebreak in the third set to win the match. And then today against Naomi Osaka, the 4th of those Grand Slam champions, alongside Rybakina, Gauff, and Kenin. Again, dropped that first set, and then all of a sudden the crowd got right behind her, which really rattled Naomi Osaka and became a bit of a challenge for her in terms of the pieces of the tournament. She started to really fall apart. It almost had flashbacks to those issues she had way back at the US Open up against Serena Williams many years ago, and what it looked like Naomi Osaka 2.0 all of a sudden crumbled back, and the facade and the exterior came down. And she just fell away in the third set. The second set was a weird one. We had 5 breaks of serve to start that set. We then had 3 to start the final set before Mboko went on a run and just absolutely was clinical. She certainly looks like she's going to be one to watch. And it's crazy to think that she's just 18 years of age. She turns 19 later this month, just before the start of the US Open. She's certainly going to be one to watch. As I said, has moved up from 85 to 25 inside the world rankings. Some other movers in the rankings include Clara Towson, who made it deep into this tournament. She's now moved up to 14th in the world, which is a good move for her. And Naomi Osaka, not a new career high, but certainly now back into the seeding. She is up to, I believe, 25th in the world. So Mboko will be 24th in the world now. Osaka 25th at the moment. That'll just depend on their runs at Cincinnati. Osaka had some points to defend there, and we'll go into the first round, whereas Mboko will get the conditional bye, I believe. So we'll see how that plays out as they head to Cincinnati. But certainly some big movers there in terms of very interesting to see. And well done to Victoria Mboko, her first Masters 1000 title. And I tell you what, the way she's playing, it may not be her last. She's looking like she could be an impressive and prodigious talent to watch in the future. We're looking forward to seeing her progression. In the men's final, it was Karen Khachanov who took on America's Ben Shelton in the final, and Shelton, the 4th seed, probably wasn't as fancied in a few of his matches, yet managed to climb his way through and overpowered a couple of names that we've come to see and recognise in some of these hard-court tournaments, and stamp his name taking out the tournament. Again, a big mover in the rankings. he will now move up to number 7 in the rankings. He sits inside that top 8 now, which means that he is in a crucial position. Obviously, when we come towards Wimbledon, if he can hold that, because he'll be inside that top 8, which means that he will avoid those big names until he gets to the quarterfinals, that is for sure. It's going to be a big ask for some of these players dropping outside now having some more expectation around them. And it's going to be certainly a piece for him to work on. For them to work on, I should say. But however, for Shelton, if he can back this up in Cincinnati, he does have some points to defend, but he should be able to defend those well enough and should have enough of a gap now that potentially, depending on how he goes, especially with Novak Djokovic not playing, if he could make it into the last 16 at Cincinnati, he could potentially be up as high as 6th. It would take a very deep run for him to climb up and go past the likes of Jack Draper and some big results there. He can't catch Taylor Fritz, so he can't get to the top 4, but he could get to 6 realistically with a couple of wins here. So, certainly going to be interesting to see the continued rise of Ben Shelton. Jakub Mensik also on the rise. He's up to number 15, but a well done to Ben Shelton. He didn't have an easy run. Taking down Adrian Mannarino in the first round, then on to Brandon Nakashima, his countryman, in the second round. It took him 3 sets, so he got that done. Then on to Kaboli in the round of 16 before beating Alex de Minaur fairly convincingly and comprehensively against the Aussie 9th seed. It was a really impressive display from Shelton, 3 and 4. He then beat Fritz 4 and 3 in the semi-finals before coming back after losing the first set tiebreak to win this one 6-7, 6-4, 7-6 against Karen Khachanov. So, certainly a good display. A good run from Khachanov as well, though. He looks like he's trying to find his best hardcourt form as well. He knocked out Alexander Zverev. He also took down Casper Ruud on his way there, as well as Alex Mickelson, the American. So, certainly some good form for him. It's going to be about how they balance that now. And Khachanov now back into the top 10, nipping at the heels of his highest ever ranking. And again, not a significant amount of points to defend in Cincinnati, but again, if he wants to try and chase that top 8 and chase down Alex de Minaur, who sits in 8th spot at the moment, he's going to again have quite a bit of work to do. Quite some depth in this tournament. He'd need to go looking at the high level numbers. He'd probably need to go through to the quarterfinals at Cincy to get in, but then all of a sudden it opens up at the US Open, a run for some of these guys, and they could be pushing their way up towards the top 5 or 6. It's really exciting to see and good to see some new numbers. It looks like with the women's game, we're starting to see some of these youngsters appear and emerge. We obviously saw Maya Joint, Alexiala making that final in the lead up to Wimbledon. Just depending on surfaces, we've got a lot of these 17, 18, 19-year-old females making a charge up the rankings. There's going to be something to watch in the women's. For the men's, obviously, we've got a lot of these guys in their early 20s, your Sinners, your Alcarazes, your Jack Drapers, Ben Shelton now joining them, Lorenzo Musetti as well, Holger Rune is still there, and Jakub Mensik now at not quite 20, entering the fray as well inside that top 20. Certainly looking forward to seeing the continued development of some of these guys and seeing who else is next to emerge. Maybe an Artifice, if he can get healthy as well, can push his way back up into the top 16, because that's obviously the crucial element when we come to the Grand Slams. So really looking forward to that. In terms of Cincinnati Open, it's one of these pieces that we had these overlapping WTA and ATP 1000 events. They've pushed to these 10 and 12-day events. It makes it quite awkward. It's a real sort of clunky arrangement where, we saw it with the winners. They then get a protected by basically a bonus, a reward for their performance. So the draw has to be manipulated as such. So basically you have to look at who's in the final and then provide them with that protection as they come through if they're not already seeded. Obviously, for players like Shelton, he's seeded 5th here, so he's already through into the second round, so he didn't have to worry about that, nor did Khachanov. But for a lot of the others in the women, certainly with the 2 players not being seeded coming in with Osaka and also Mboko, they were in that situation where it wasn't quite the same situation. And so because of that, they then found themselves in a situation where they had to rely on that performance bonus, I think is the way they term it, it's essentially a special exemption. So for Victoria Mboko, she goes straight through, and now she'll play Diana Schneider in the second round, a seeded player. So it's going to be a very interesting one up against the Russian in this first round here. We've already seen some early results. Mentioned Maya Joint before, she got through against Minen from Belgium. So there's some players pushing through, but this will continue to play out from the early hours of Saturday morning, where we'll start to push through more of the first round into the second round of this 96 player draw. And we have these expanded draws now. It's great because it means there are more opportunities. There's also a bit more prize money, certainly more to go around, but also more for the top tier performers in the tournament. So that's wonderful to see. And this will start to give us some lead in form. This is a great measure, the Cincinnati Open. It's the one that we look at in terms of who's set up for the US Open. The defending champions Sinner and Sabalenka give you some measure of that. But yeah, certainly, as I said, Ben Navarro, who is the owner of the tournament, has made some leap forwards to try and build the infrastructure up to be more like a Grand Slam tournament. It is that perfect US Open prep. It's a bit of an interesting one in terms of most of the other 1,000s are destination cities, obviously, not so obviously, but Cincinnati, which is played about half an hour outside of Cincinnati itself at the Lindner Family Tennis Center, is a little bit different in that regard. But again, as I said, it's a legacy tournament, 124th edition over 125 years for the men's. I think it's 90 plus for the women's. It's certainly been a real upgrade now. It's doubled in size, 31 outdoor courts. They've got indoor facilities as well, player lounges, additional practice courts, hospitality zones. So they're obviously looking to bank back on some of the money they've invested, but also improving it because a lot of players really felt that this one was caught behind the times. There was a risk a couple of years ago of Cincinnati losing this tournament. It's now been locked in for another 25 years. And look, it stands out not only for its history, but also now it's delivering the premium infrastructure that a 1,000 event comes to expect. And now it's really positioned as the best of the warm-up tournaments leading into the US Open. We saw lots of players sit out the Toronto and Montreal events. But it's certainly a meaningful tournament now. It's obviously worth plenty of ranking points, and the transformation to the venue is, it's a strategic upgrade. It really stamps Cincinnati's presence and place on the World Tour for a long time to come. So it's really going to be interesting. It's going to have similar hot court conditions to the US, so it's going to be a good measure as we lead in before we get to the wonderful, quirky, curious mixed doubles event that the US Open is going to kick off with in their fan week. It's certainly going to give us a good measure of those players who are there and who are playing. Obviously, as we said, when we have a look at the at the rankings, there are Miron Draver, Zhongxin Wen, Paula Badosa, the biggest names not playing on the women's side of the draw. You've then got to go down to like Maria Buzkova, Lois Bosson, these sorts before you get beyond that. And then on the men's side, the biggest names missing: Draper and Djokovic, the 5th and 6th ranked men. Francisco Cerundolo, Alex Bublik, Grigor Dimitrov as well, all sitting inside the top 32. So yeah, they're the main names that are missing there: Draper, Djokovic, Cerundolo, Bublik, and Dimitrov, 5 of the top 23 in the world. And realistically, Djokovic and Bublik didn't have any points to defend. Neither did Cerundolo. So Dimitrov and Draper were the only 2 that are impacted in terms of the ranking. Create some opportunity, as we said. So really looking forward to seeing who can go deep here. You'd have to think that Alcaraz and Sinner are very short on this, probably leaning towards Sinner and seeing how that plays out for him. It's going to be a really interesting one. He'll play Galan in the second round, so we'll see how that shapes for him. While we'll wait and see in the bottom half of the draw who plays through. It'll be the winner of Bellucci and Zuma, who will play Carlos Alcaraz. Could be setting up though nicely for a 4th round match with Jakub Mensik for Alcaraz. So really looking forward to seeing that. And for Sinner up against the big bombing American Tommy Paul, or maybe Thomas Mahac, the Czech. So we'll see how that plays and how that shapes for the matchups as we get towards the 4th round. It's really exciting. On the women's side, again, the likes of Sabalenka, she's going to be certainly one of the favourites. She's got a tough section of the draw. She's got Marketa Vondrousova in the second round. Then she'll play the winner of Danilovic and Raducanu. So that'll be interesting. Danilovic blew Katie Bolter away. She's also got a potential matchup in the 4th round with Ludmila Samsonova or Leylah Fernandez. And Fernandez has been in good form. We saw her win a tournament a couple of weeks ago. And then potentially the likes of Madison Keys or Elena Rybakina when she gets to the quarterfinals. So we'll certainly watch this with bated breath. We need to see a bounce back from the likes of Iga Swiatek, Coco Gauff, the Jessica Pegulas of the world. We'll wait and see how they all shape and see where these dark horses shape up. Naomi Osaka against Linda Noskova first up as well. As I said, Diana Schneider coming up against Victoria Mboko is going to be really interesting to see. That's going to be a huge first match for those two, and seeing how Mboko backs up from winning that first 1,000 tournament for sure. We'll be bringing you more updates in the lead up to the US Open. We'll do a preview show. Hopefully, be able to get Christian Monaghan from the first serve on and talk all things the final Grand Slam, and then we'll be trying to do our daily doses each day, talking about the matches to watch. But until then, a big thank you for tuning in. We look forward to bringing you some tennis action again, and a huge congratulations, Victoria Mboko, Canada's first 1,000 winner in a little while, and the first Canadian winner at the Canadian Open in 57 years. Congratulations to Mboko, and also to Ben Shelton for taking out the Canada Open 1,000 events on the WTA and ATP tours, respectively.